The incident happened 2 years ago. I can't say it, so I won't write the detailed place names. Almost all the specific parts will be omitted or vague, and those who can accept it can continue to read on. It was something that happened during the summer vacation of senior year. My friends and I, 5 people in total, planned a trip, partly because of the accumulated fatigue from the reading exams, and partly because it was the last summer vacation of high school. But the summer vacation had already started, and it was hard to find hotels. And we had to wait at every scenic spot to see if anyone canceled. In the end, I finally found a homestay at a Highland scenic spot near the capital. They promised that even if we quarreled, we would not complain, so they decided to stay there immediately. We set out early in the morning on the day of the trip and arrived at the destination before noon, but there was a problem. The travel agency and the homestay management group communicated incorrectly. We booked to stay for 3 days and 2 nights today, but the homestay received the message that we would start staying in 3 days. It is now fully booked, with no vacancies. We complained that how could this happen when we were already here? They introduced us to a hotel at the foot of the mountain, but we didn't just come for sightseeing. I also hoped that no one would complain at night, so this is unacceptable. Later, the people from the homestay asked us to wait for a while. Picked up the phone and called somewhere. I don't know what was said on the phone. After talking for 15 minutes, it seemed to be settled. What do you think about having a rental villa nearby? In terms of cost, because it was our negligence, it's 30% off the homestay rent. We can accept it, but then things started to go wrong. They said that the villa has not been used for a long time, and it takes a lot of time to prepare and clean. They gave us transportation expenses and aquarium discount coupons to kill time before dusk. The aquarium is far from the homestay. It's an aquarium in a big city outside the county. It was almost 6 p.m. when we visited. How long has it been unused if it takes so long to prepare? Isn't it a ruin? It feels very strange. We discussed unease while going to the management office. When we returned to the homestay, there was an uncle we hadn't seen before, saying he was ready to take us there. 15 minutes later, I arrived at a villa in the forest. The villa is completely surrounded by the forest, with nothing around. It seems that no one would complain about how noisy it is. The uncle emphasized again and again that although it has not been used here for a while, it takes a lot of time to tidy up, and the mobile phone is not available. But there is water, electricity, and gas, and there is also a direct management cabin phone. There will be no problem. I don't know why the uncle is trying so hard to explain to us. It's a bit uneasy. But there's nothing we can do since we're here, so we entered the villa. The appearance of the villa is very ordinary, but it is quite an old Western-style building, which may have been built for 30 or 40 years. The interior decoration is also consistent with the appearance, very old. They said it was not needed, but it was quite clean. Thinking about it now, it was quite clean. Almost no one has lived in it. After listening to the introduction of the interior of the villa, it turned out that this villa is a 2-story building with a spacious space, which feels good. After we put down our luggage, the uncle said something strange while preparing dinner at the barbecue. He said that there might be bears at night. It's best not to go out late at night. He also carefully asked us to promise not to go out late at night. Will there be bears 15 minutes away from the dense area of the homestay? At first, everyone thought it was very strange. But later I think what he meant was that he was afraid the children would run around at night and get into trouble, scaring us. After dinner, we took a casual walk in the forest, set off fireworks, made phone calls, and went to sleep at 2 in the morning. The first day passed like this. Nothing strange happened that day, but a friend said he encountered something strange the next day. This guy was in a hurry to urinate in the middle of the night, and when he went to the bathroom, he heard drumming outside. We thought he just heard wrong, and that was the end of the topic. I also thought it was just my own illusion, but an accident really happened the next night. The second day for dinner, we ate a full stomach of barbecue. Nothing to do during the day, ran to the forest path to test courage. Nothing happened when trying courage, we all felt bored. When I returned to the villa, I saw a man in his late 20s standing in front of it, holding the door handle. It was around 10 o'clock at night. There should be no caretaker at this time. It must be a break-in, right? But even after we approached, that person still held the door handle without looking at us. If it were a thief or any suspicious person, they would have left long before hearing footsteps. But we were only about 10 meters away from him, and he was still motionless. Something felt off, so my friend who always took the lead and I approached and said, "Uncle, what are you doing?" Even when we were right in front of the man, he remained unmoved, and we were at a loss. My friend grabbed the man's arm and said, "Can't you hear us?" At that very moment, my friends and I screamed and retreated backward at the same time. Why did we retreat? Because when my friend pulled his arm, about 10 centimeters from the wrist, where there should have been a joint, bent like rubber. When the man faced us, the other friends also gathered to see what had happened. At first glance, he looked ordinary, but then we realized his gaze had no focus. He seemed to be looking nowhere. His mouth was open with drool flowing out. And his clothes were torn. He didn't look like an ordinary person at all. We stared at the man in disbelief, and he seemed not to see us at all, and walked into the forest with a wobbly gait. We were all terrified by what just happened and stood there motionless. But we couldn't stand here forever. We suddenly regained our senses, hurried into the villa, and locked the door. Later, everyone confirmed that all the doors were locked and gathered back in the living room. What was that? A ghost? How could a human arm become like that? Everyone became a little excited after being frightened. At this time, there was a thump, thump, thump coming from outside. The sound seemed to be slowly approaching. We all shut our mouths, pricked up our ears, and listened to the direction of the sound. When the sound came near the courtyard, our unease also reached its peak. And we couldn't help but open the living room curtains to look outside. It was too dark outside to see clearly. It seemed that something like a large ball was slowly rolling over. The drumming sound seemed to be coming from the large ball-like object. It rolled forward with a thump and stopped with a thump. Like this, rolling and stopping. From the main road to the path of the villa, slowly rolling over. About 5 or 6 feet in size. The other friends saw us motionless looking out the window and all crowded to the window to see what was there. Although everyone silently watched for a while, it was too dark outside to see the true face of the thing. Everyone stared at it in silence. Soon, the thing was very close. When it came to the door, the light of the door monitor turned on. The next moment, we panicked and pulled up the curtains. What is that? This is really not a joke. How to describe the moment before the curtains were pulled up and illuminated by the light? The object was a block made up of several people. There were men, women, old and young. Like the man just now, with mouths open drooling, gaze without focus, not knowing where to look. Bodies entwined like there were joints everywhere. Dozens of people formed a block. Except for me, everyone saw the human block and was too scared to say a word. We huddled in the corner of the living room, trembling, saying what to do, what to do. After a while, the drumming sound disappeared. We didn't know if that thing was still there, and we waited in a corner of the living room. At this moment, there was a sudden loud knock on the door. Knock. 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 I covered my ears with my hands, falling into a state of panic filled with horror and unease. Others were also desperately enduring the situation in their ears. When the surroundings quieted down, we thought it was over. But after a while, there was a thud. 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 All around the house. Regardless of the windows or walls, it seemed like a large crowd of people were pounding randomly. Finally, a friend couldn't stand it and said, "Make a phone call. Isn't there a phone in the direct management office? Use that to call for help." We suddenly realized this and rushed to the phone by the door. I picked up the phone and pressed the direct button. After 2 or 3 rings, the voice of the uncle who took us to the villa came through. I desperately explained the situation. The uncle said to himself, "How could it appear again?" Then he said to me, "I will explain to you later. There is a shrine in the living room. right? There are talismans and tape inside. Put the talismans on the door and wait for us. Although I didn't know why, there was no other way, so I had to go back to the living room to look for the shrine. The shrine was close to the ceiling in the corner of the room. Standing on a chair and looking inside, there were indeed talismans and tape. We quickly took out the talismans and tape and pasted the talismans on the main door and the doors and windows of the living room. When pasting the talismans on the window, although I tried not to look out of the window, I still took a glance. A few pale arms were knocking on the window. On the other side of the arm was a face, in a strange position compared to the arm. Like the others, the expression on the face was also with an open mouth, without focus. I was so scared that I can't remember what the state of that thing outside was. A few hours later, it began to light up outside, and the sound of knocking on the doors, windows, and walls disappeared. But we didn't know if that thing outside was still there, so everyone remained motionless. Until the sound of a car approaching from a distance was heard. The car stopped in the yard, followed by the footsteps of several people. Then the doorbell rang, and someone said, "Hey, are you okay?" Saved. We rushed out immediately. In addition to the person who arranged the guide at the beginning, 3 uncles also came. The person who arranged and guided said with an apologetic tone, "I'm really sorry, I thought there was no problem." "Wait a moment, let me explain to you. Pack up your luggage and put the trash in order." We left the villa as they said. After getting in the car, we were taken to the shrine. The other 3 uncles should be people from the shrine. After the feeling of tension disappeared, although somewhat grateful for their rescue, it was overshadowed by anger. We shouted at them, "Why did you let us stay in that place?" Then the shrine's priest told us about this matter. In 1965, the location where the villa was located was still a forest. Later, it was developed into a tourist spot. The development went smoothly, but when the villa was built, strange things began to happen. It is not known whether the cause is the villa or the development. In short, the sound of drums and human blocks began to appear. The first and the next owner of the villa disappeared in the villa. Later, the villa was sold and became a rental villa under the management group, but the human blocks still appeared from time to time. Although no one was harmed, the witnesses often complained, so the priest came to exorcise about 10 years ago. After that, the villa was never rented again, but the people who cleaned and organized did not see it. I thought there was no problem before renting it to us. As a result, the incident happened yesterday. We were completely hit while lying down. After complaining, the administrator helped us pay for the transportation and meal expenses of the previous few days. The rent of the villa was also waived, and it was explained that the travel agency would give us a special discount next time. I really feel sorry for you. I hope you don't say it. They bowed their heads and pleaded with us. Although I feel deceived, even if I call the police, no one will believe it, so I have to swallow it willingly. The story ends. Therefore, as mentioned above, I cannot write the detailed place names. By the way, when I called the travel agency last year to give them a discount, I heard that the villa had been demolished. And now it has become a vacant lot.